It's I'm seeing you in
Okay, wait.
Stream
I just
Manager.
hit a thing came up like I had to hit go live
Yeah,
next to
it's working
stop.
now. That's
Okay.
that's what I asked if there was 2 blue buttons.
Yeah, but it was going before,
It wasn't.
but now
We
it must
should
be,
be good
right?
now because
Okay.
my whole dashboard has changed, so
Okay, cool.
yeah, live as of 13 seconds ago. Um,
Yes, only 11 minutes late and we started early.
we
Let's see.
yeah, the tech is a bit of an interesting one right
Well,
now.
hopefully we're good to go.
Mm, yeah, we'll see. Let's just
Oh,
see
oh,
if
oh,
more chats
no.
flow in and Seamus says he can see it now.
Okay, good.
Sweet. So we should be good.
Okay, cool. So then we should be getting, let's see if anybody joins us here. Hopefully we're rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Are we laggy or are we okay?
I can see. Sweet. Hey, Dr. Scott. Yeah, sorry for the tech
Uh,
issues. We were having a moment there.
yes.
Um, yeah,
We
we
did
should be
make
good
it. We've
now.
been we've been working on it for a
We
while,
have been
but
working on it for quite a minute. You don't look laggy from my perspective.
okay, good. And then I did not start recording it. Want me to start recording it?
Yeah, please start recording. That's
Okay.
important.
Okay, fun
'Cause
money
that's
in
what will
the
make the YouTube
house.
video.
Nice.
Nice. We are back.
Okay, we are back. We were here and then the stream got interrupted and we are back. And we'll take a minute to regulate, right? Regulate
We're
first. Even
gonna
though we
we're gonna
weren't
need it
really
for
we weren't
sure.
really sweating it. I give you a lot of credit,
Yeah, we were handling it
Declan,
quite
because
well.
no, we've been real chill during this whole process, thankfully. So okay, welcome everybody to Social Sunday. Yes,
Social
thank you
Sunday,
for
that is
joining us.
right.
We are glad to be back, and we know it's a Sunday, and people are probably relaxing. We were joking when we started the stream, and no one was in the chat that screen addiction problem solved. It only took 4 days, and we're highly successful, and nobody was here. Hi, Vikram. Sorry to keep you waiting, buddy. We experienced some technical difficulties, and we are doing great. Fun money. I'm
Yeah, we're
great.
doing pretty good today.
I shouldn't speak for Declan. How are you, Declan?
We're quite social. That's the way I'm feeling, if you ask me.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna give some
Yeah,
examples.
we
We're
got
gonna
a
do an
new
experiment of social.
we got a new remote setup where we're not side by side today, unlike the past few days that we've been streaming.
Yep. So we got a little hung up in the tech, but we did make it, in fact. So we are ready to dive into Social Sunday, talk about how to improve social interactions in the real world, maybe even using technology, using our stream here as an example, and then especially for people who struggle with social anxiety, from my perspective, helping people to overcome social anxiety too. So we're glad you're here with us. What else, Declan? You got anything? Or you want to dive in since we're late?
Yeah, we can dive in just a minute. Anything else before we get going with the slideshow? Yeah, let's give the chat an update on the progress for the new Supernormal website that we're launching to go with the nonprofit.
Yeah, sounds great. Do you want to do that, or would you like me to do that?
Yeah, sure. So, in just a couple days, we are going to be setting our new website live. It is thesupernormalproject.org. And what it is going to involve is a couple different programs that help people who use their phones more than they'd like to, or see that trend growing, to move away from the screen and get more on purpose in their lives. We're making a program for people who consider themselves addicted to screens. We're making a program for people who see that trend growing in their life and want to get away from their screens and have more time with friends and family and be more social. And we're also making some really cool programs to work with other organizations and parents that they can help spread this message to people who they see attached to their screens. So this is all going to be going live in just a couple days, and we're going to be posting on our socials as well as on both YouTube channels about the Supernormal project.
Yes. Yeah, we're very excited. We've been working on it hard for a long time. We're nowhere near done, but it's a work in progress. So the website will be live, and then we will be working on the programs. We've got them all outlined. We just need to record them. So any donations that we get here in the lives are applied to the nonprofit, And then all the donations that we've set the website right now for donation only, but then once programs are ready, you can purchase programs, but the purchase is actually a donation, which also helps that if anybody cannot access it financially, that no one is turned away because of financial access. So this way we'll
Hmm.
be able to help as many people as possible.
And any of the donations you all leave in the YouTube today will go towards the Supernormal project. So feel free to do that. We really appreciate any support you're willing to give us.
Yes, absolutely.
You want to go
Okay,
ahead and
let's
dive
see.
into the slideshow so we can
Yeah.
teach
I
people
say
about s-
I say
the
let's do it.
power of socialization?
Yep. The URL, Dr. Scott, is going to be supernormalproject.org because it is a nonprofit. And then we are really excited because we plan on having a fundraiser. I've got some good ideas in store, so there'll be lots of information to come. Okay, so if you've just shown up, let me just frame. Oh, for Declan, red meme showing up with a
Oh,
donation
classic
for
red
this
meme. Such a
man.
powerful
Nice.
shatter. Always here to support.
That is amazing. Thank you very much because we are on a mission, and I am so excited for Declan and about Declan because he's really champion the idea for the nonprofit, and the redo of it was all Declan's idea, and he's the champion for the cause. So I really love that. On this primary channel, I focus on explicit matter, which I'll be back to after our 1 week long supernormal week
And
where
what day
we're
will you be going live for that?
I will be going live on Wednesday. Every Wednesday right now, I've been going live. So join me then.
Wednesdays
And
at 5. That's right.
yeah, Wednesday at 5. And especially after a week of, I know we're not answering everybody's questions, especially when it comes to explicit types of situations. And Seamus is there kind of covering the chat so that we can stay focused on our topics, which today is socialization and social anxiety. And I know that's challenging if you have a question that you want to get answered. On Wednesdays, I run a Q&A. I call it After Hours Rewire. It's all Q&A. It's 55 minutes long of your questions, my answers. We're taking the questions from each of the videos. If you leave a comment with the question, I'm going in there and taking screenshots. So if you have a question, please show up on Wednesday because I will be here to answer your questions. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen today. We're going to talk about socialization and how to overcome social anxiety,
Yep.
and we're going
Make
to do
sure
some
the slideshow's
experiments.
full screened on the
I will.
center before.
I
Okay,
will.
great.
All right, Kevin's in the house. Okay, I'm going to move my chat back over because I was moving my screens around, and then we'll. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you're just
Kevin,
getting
thanks for
here,
joining from the UK. That's really cool to hear.
we had some technical difficulties. Nothing, just trying to make my screen bigger here. Nothing that will kill us, but it did delay us a little bit. So, without further ado, I am running the slideshow tonight. And I'm
That is
sure
right.
I will be getting some feedback from Declan if I need any help. But without further ado, welcome to Social Sunday. We are very excited to be here to help you or anybody who wants to improve their social life out in the real world, even using technology, because in the Supernormal Project, we're all about balancing screen time. So using technology to connect with your loved ones is important, but here tonight we want to make sure that you understand what is connection and what is not. And then especially if you struggle with social anxiety when you leave your screen and you go out to be in the real world, I really want to dive into that. So Social Sunday, social isn't always connected. I'm going to let Declan take over on the next slide if that is okay.
Sure. Yeah, so feeling alone even though you're interacting all day. It's a very common feeling. And a lot of the times that we feel this, it's because we're actually replacing standard and normal connection with a more extreme version that you might find online. Instead of talking with your friends or your family, you might be talking with them online or replacing it with scrolling, reels, and different content online, or even comment sections, which can feel like real connections and talking to people. But in reality, it actually ends up being a replacement. the time that you would be spending in real life, you end up spending on your phone. And because it's so stimulating and it creates so much dopamine in your brain, you end up wanting to keep going back to that.
Yeah, and if I can add, yesterday we covered what supernormal stimuli are and are not. And I just want a gentle reminder that most of what you're consuming in social media is a supernormal stimulus, meaning it's not exactly how that person's life plays out in most cases. It's performative. Depending upon if you know the
Hmm.
person or not, there is such a thing as parasocial relationships where you feel connected
That's
to
right.
an influencer, but they might not be connected to you and they may only be interacting with you for money. It's transactional. So Saoirse put it a couple weeks ago. Saoirse had a really rough day. She rides horses. It was a really rough day. She was in tears twice. And at the end of the day, she joked because she posted her, smiling. She's like, classic social media moment. There was no pictures of the tears. There was just the picture of the blue ribbon at the end of a 12-hour day. So we have to keep that in mind. That's like that again, that is an exaggeration of her life, right? It looks all shiny and
Hmm.
wonderful, even though it came through a lot of struggle. So just to remind you, and that can make you feel lonely when you look at everybody else's life and it seems fabulous, or if you're looking at people who look a lot better than you do, then you start having self-esteem issues. Those are supernormal stimuli. It can lead to
That's
feelings
right.
of loneliness. Okay,
Uh,
I'm gonna.
yeah, you want to go to the
Yep.
Great. So here we have a quick social experiment that we wanted to do and really just show you all because it reflects this concept that real conversation can differ, and there's different sorts of conversations. So there is this concept that talking about yourself creates a reward in your brain. When you talk about yourself, it actually causes a very positive feeling, specifically because it releases so much dopamine. So, if Dr. Trish wants to talk a bit more about that, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so the idea, especially on social media, if you're posting something about yourself, you get a dopamine rush from that. Or if you put out your opinion strongly, these are dopamine hits. So again, we want to bring to attention, what is actually sharing and connecting versus what feels like being social, but it might be more performative or it's calculated or it's
Hmm.
strategic to be able to get something. So I wanted to give you an experiment and ask everybody to put something about themselves in the chat. In the chat right now, as we do the next slide, tell me something about you, something you like, something that's important to you. Put it in the chat so that I can take note of it and check it out once we've moved through these slides. So first of all, we
Yeah,
can make some more points.
and we could even take a note of it now if you want to transition over just to the camera of the two of us, so we can read a few of those chats before
Sure.
we keep going with the slideshow.
Sure. I want to give people time to put them in though.
Oh,
Like,
Muddle It, thank you for the donation. We appreciate that.
nice. Do you want to give people time to put theirs in? Because this way
Yeah,
we'll do
it'll show
another
up
slide
pretty.
or show.
It'll. We can just wait 1 second. It'll come up in no time.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, yes, you are 6 foot tall and
Nice one,
handsome.
Seamus. That's a great fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
Oh, Jaden
Love
Harris
it.
studies physics in his spare time. Physics is so cool. There's so many cool videos on YouTube specifically about it. There's
Physics is not cool, and physics is the
it's
only
cool in
class
my book.
ever that I withdrew from in
It's a
college.
difficult subject. Yeah, I saw a video about the three body problem, which is the concept of can you calculate the gravity of three objects interacting on each other? And after
Uh,
years and years of work, scientists came to the conclusion that it is physically impossible to predict. Even
huh.
though the paths have somewhere that they will go and it's guaranteed, it's not possible to predict them using math. It was really cool. Physics
Yeah,
is an interesting subject. Yeah.
that it is. But you're good at math, and I'm not. So that's why, right? You know what I mean? You're very good at math. It comes to you intuitively.
Oh, living in the Florida Keys,
Yeah. Hey,
George,
Jorge.
that's really cool.
Yeah, the Florida Keys is one of our favorite places. My besties love to go there, so that's a place that I visit. Yeah, I love it. I read more than anyone I know personally, says Star Chaser, which is really cool. We talked about reading yesterday, and how it's kind of becoming a lost art and how important it
Hmm.
is. So let's see. Oh yeah, Kevin, I'm glad you're here live tonight, and I'm glad you've been checking out the replays, but definitely glad you're here.
Oh, Dr.
Oh,
Scott, thank you so much for the donation. I just saw that come in. We really appreciate that.
yep, I know. It's
Yeah, I see.
really wonderful.
It's awesome, and that goes directly to the Supernormal project, so we truly appreciate that. And then I see Mogo Productions here saying that they're regularly quoted about financial market insights. That's really cool. Finance is an awesome subject, so it's great that you're making progress on that in life.
Definitely. Let's see. Moodalip, we'll dig in there to explicit matter on Wednesday, my friend. I hope you're here. Because what will become of you is hopefully you're going to follow some of the strategies we've been talking about all week, and we'll get you moving in the right direction. Let's see, everyone. Let's see here.
Yep, we can
Okay.
go back to the slideshow if you
Sure.
wanna keep moving.
Yeah, and 11177 says it's highly erroneous, and I don't feel comfortable doing it, which will
That's
add to my point once we get there. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so let us.
go
So
on to the
we're gonna
next
go
slide
back
if you
and
want to.
we'll look in the chat, and we'll come back to this in just a bit. You want to dive into the study deck?
Yeah, sure. So here is a study by Diana Demir, and the concept of this study is that your brain genuinely treats expressing yourself, your own interests, just like we did in the chat, as a reward. When you talk about yourself or what you've accomplished or what you're interested in, it releases dopamine in your brain. You can see in the image here, there's a test that's in easy terms the difference between someone talking about anything not about themselves and then talking specifically about themselves. And when they talked about themselves, their brain lit up like a matchstick. And this is important to understand because it teaches us that the way that we converse can be deeply affected by that. If you go online and you talk about your opinions and you go into comment sections, you can release a bunch of dopamine by talking about that. That's not always a good thing, even though it gives you a lot of dopamine. But at the same time, if you're talking in person with friends and you're sharing interests and you're sharing stories, that is an amazing thing in your life, but it releases the same kind of dopamine in your brain. So it's difficult to understand the difference between these two, but there is an important distinction between online versus real life interaction.
Yeah, awesome. And a few, maybe now, at least a month ago, I made a slideshow that is available here on this YouTube channel about self referential thinking and self expression, and how, in evolutionary sense and in a healthy sense, it's meant to be done with other people for connection, and that our own ideas of ourself shouldn't be just an internal loop that is happening, that is basically being fostered by the high levels of dopamine from the screen. Instead, it should be the happiness trifecta, which is dopamine at healthy levels, serotonin, and oxytocin through connection in the real world. So if you want to know more about
Hmm.
self-referential thinking, these images of the brain that are lit up, you'll see very similar images that I put in that slideshow talking about this. And this study is interesting because people would even forego money to be able to talk about themselves. And you may have a friend like this or know somebody that if you try to share something about what happened with your day, they immediately tell you something about themselves and kind of hijack that conversation. Many times that is for dopamine, that they want to be able to talk about themselves. So we talked about it a few days ago, that reflective listening and shared connection in the back and forth, which allows the happiness trifecta and oxytocin in particular for connection to flow, can really help balance
Hmm.
out your life.
That
Okay.
is right. Mm, yeah. So the problem is that stimulation doesn't equal connection. It's the difference that we're talking about. Being stimulated online by talking about yourself or by talking with others does not mean that there's a real connection being built there. And when you realize this, something like the chat here is somewhere in between that. you are meeting people and you're conversing, but it is deeply online. If you compare that to being in real person and talking to a friend that you have face to face, there's a very, very big difference. The face to face connection is true, proper connection, while online forms of that is stimulation. Having a real connection requires three things. It requires presence, which is being with that person. And that doesn't necessarily mean in person, but it means that there's an actual connection. Something like a video call would count, for example. But something like commenting back and forth in a comment section on a Instagram post wouldn't necessarily count. The second is attention. Both people have to be giving each other attention in the conversation for it to be a connection. And the third is time. Connections don't come instantly. You have to build them over time with people. And the more that you have a back and forth with someone and share ideas and interests, the stronger that connection will be. So, building real important connections like this is very powerful in how you live your life. And it can help you be on purpose and avoid being on the screen all the time. It has really profound impacts.
Yeah, love it. And to add to that, you can see our reaction change when we're in the chat with people that we have real connection with, right? You can see
Mhm.
Declan light up when it's someone that he knows. You can see me light up and try to bribe Cuban coffee when it's someone that I know. And a point I want to make about that is, many of the people that I know here, I have connection with, but it is through the screen. That's why I say, like, the screen can be our greatest asset if we use it in a healthy way. This way I have FaceTimes with people, or I have video meetings with people. I can phone calls, I can connect with them. And then, my response is different. And even people who show up here in the chat a lot, I feel more connected, and who
Mhm.
interact consistently. You can see us kind of calling out and wanting to connect with those people more. So, again, screens aren't bad. It's just being acutely aware that it is presence, attention, and time, having shared connection. So, and we can use
Exactly.
our devices to get that.
Like right now, Dr. Trish and I are nowhere near each other. I'm all the way at my place, and then she is in her recording studio. Yet, even though it's over this distance, we're sharing presence with each other. We're giving each other attention, and time is passing. So we are connecting. That
Yep.
is the terms that define if it is a connection.
Yes. Love it. Okay. Oh, what a cute picture. That's so
Yeah,
cute.
so the real connection, which we just showed how you define a real connection, those three terms, leads to safety. You feel safe in that connection, it's not unstable, and that releases a chemical in your brain called oxytocin. There's three big chemicals that drive the way your brain works: dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. And oxytocin is one that you can only get from something like a safe connection. So it's important to build those in your lives. It's important to have people to support you and that you can talk to. So this here is an image of our family during an event for the book launch that we had for Dr. Trish's book. So things like this can help you build these connections that lead to this release of oxytocin and this feeling of safety and comfort with each other.
Yeah, and it's we joke that everybody's, kind of headshots from the last year all have a big red X behind them, right, Deck?
All of them do. 'Cause the photos were great from that.
The
That was a
photos were
good
great.
time. That wasn't half
It
bad.
was, I know. We had a professional photographer come, and I'm like, I should just have a professional photographer. She wasn't even that expensive. I'm like, we should have her
Just
again so we
all the
could get
time.
some
Yeah.
get some fresh images without a red X
Yeah,
behind us.
imagine, that'd be great.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
you wanna take this one away?
Sure. So, people think that they don't have the skills they're lacking social skills, or, that they're quote unquote bad with people, or most people can feel a shift in time where they knew they were better at being social, but then they can feel the challenge. And the point about that is, we made the point the other night that when you go into the algorithm is not neutral, and it is in fact an environment in and of itself, right? So we're talking about in real life and all the different environments that you might be in real life. The algorithm's an environment also, and it is in fact training your
Mhm.
brain to expect one thing Then you go out in the world and you get a totally different thing, right? You're not getting high intensity, novel input. You're not able to say whatever you want, whenever you want, behind, just your avatar or your name that you made. Now you're standing in front of someone really vulnerable as yourself. And the more important that connection is to you, you may have more anxiety. So, what I want you to know is the algorithm trains your brain for overstimulation, and it trains you to get the dopamine hits from the shares that might not be authentic, might be erroneous, like we saw in the chat. When you go into the
Hmm.
world, it helps to be regulated. That's why one of my sayings is you have to regulate first. When I help people regulate, we're looking at brain maps on the screen right now. The red one, when you get all the way up to red, that is 97.33% dysregulation in the brain. That's basically the bell curve. So when we see green, that's the healthy, optimal range of brain performance. So clearly, the closer your brain is to those healthy levels, the easier it is to socialize. I use technology to help people regulate their brains in my practice, but here, when I show up here, I'm trying to help you by using your mind and your body. So today we're talking about socialization. So, of course, you've got to get into the other environment to start practicing these social skills. And a big takeaway that we want you to have today is it's not the same. They're not the same skills. And in the screen, you will be getting larger dopamine hits. Out in the world, it will be more challenging, and you have to be vulnerable. You have to be present. You have to pay attention, and you have to put some time in. One strategy that I've had my clients do for a long time is go into the world and practice. And we've actually, someone has brought it up in the chat all week saying, get out into a coffee shop or go out into the world, start seeing the same people over and over. I have one client, he had a lot of social anxiety. Every Friday, he'd go to the cafe and work from the cafe. Before you knew it, he knew the owners and the servers, and he would connect with the people who came in at that
Hmm.
same time. So that's something you can do too. That's a brain hack takeaway for the day.
Yeah, and the
Anything to
next
add there?
slide talks about this as well. If you want to transition to it,
Yep.
it's the difference between interaction and connection. Interacting in general, whether that be online in person, doesn't always mean there's a connection. But something like going to a coffee shop every single day or weekly and talking to the same people and learning insights into their interests and who they are as a person, that is how you build connection. So understanding that there is a difference is a really important skill in life.
Yep. Sharing about yourself, but then listening and letting other people share about themselves too, and getting out there
Hmm.
and building the connection.
Yep. So we have lots of information just like this. Currently, the best place to go for that is the drtrishleigh.com website. We have programs there to help people through different online addictions. And we also have a plethora of resources in our blog posts and on the different pages of that site. So if you're interested in more info about these exact topics, feel free to go there. But soon we're going to be launching that new website that we mentioned at the beginning of the stream today, which is supernormalproject.org. And there we're going to be specifically focusing on two things. One of which is screen addictions. If you're already very attached to your phone, or if you know someone who is, or if you're a parent whose child is attached to their phone, or even if you just want to avoid becoming super dependent on your phone and you notice that when you get a quiet moment in life, you look towards your phone to fill it. So if any of that is happening or you're interested in the topic, supernormalproject.org is a new resource that is about to come out that will be great for you.
Yeah, sounds awesome. And I just recorded today just a brief training to add to my website to help people understand the brain patterns behind screen compulsion. So you can look for that over there soon too.
And
And
are
then
you, Dr. Trish, are
lastly,
you showing the slideshow or are you showing just our cameras right now?
well, now I just switched back to the slideshow
Okay,
to
great,
show the
great.
Motivation Monday.
Yep, just checking there real quick.
Yeah, so our next topic for tomorrow is Motivation Monday. And what we'll be talking about then is not only how to increase your motivation, we'll talk about how going into the algorithm is decreasing your motivation through those two brain patterns that I'm always talking about: strained brain, a wired and tired brain, or drained
Hmm.
brain, a brain that is underactivated. So your motivation goes away, your desire for things in the real world and healthy intimacy decrease. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how you can boost your motivation, but then of course from my perspective, not count on your motivation. Make a plan, make it real, and make it happen.
And that stream tomorrow is going to be at 5 p.m. EST, as we have been doing for this event, which we are calling Supernormal Week. It is going to be the second to last stream. So please come and tune in if you're interested about that topic we're going to be talking about, which is motivation, how to get motivation, where does motivation come from, and how to use it to forward your life, or even to avoid being on screens if that's something you specifically struggle with. It's going to be a great time. So please come join us.
Yeah, sounds great. And hopefully it'll be at 5 and not 5:11
Yeah,
p.m.
if
now
our
that we
tech
got the
doesn't have issues again, that would be ideal, yeah. But,
uh,
yeah,
yep.
we are
So
not done with our stream for today at all. We're just finished with the
no.
slideshow for now, so we would be happy to address some comments in the chat that we've been getting. I know that a lot of comments have, uh, come and gone as we gave this slideshow, so feel free to send them again so that we can respond to what you were asking or saying right now since we're done with the slideshow.
Yeah, and I've gone back. I can answer a few of them. So
Mhm.
let's see. Okay, so at 11177 wants to know why we chose to invest in what we do. So the reason I'm here on this live is because, and especially explicit matter, is because in my practice, I became acutely aware I wasn't asking the question about screen times. And so I was helping people regulate their brains to decrease anxiety and ADHD. And then I had a client, and I write about him in the book, Mind Over Explicit Matter, which is my book, that I was helping him, but not to the level that I was used to helping people. And then I found out that it was to do with excessive screen time and especially explicit matter. So that like
Mhm.
cracked my mind open. And ever since that day, I have been passionate about helping people to use their screens to help them create a life of purpose and passion and not get sucked into a downward spiral, because so many people are, and they don't even know that their screens are at the core of it. And you can hear more and more people realizing this. There's been a couple new books out there that have talked about this, but people have recognized, oh, my increasing feelings of anxiety, maybe it's because I'm comparing myself to all the people I am looking at on social media. So
Yeah, and
that's how it
I've
started.
seen very similar things happen, for at least in my perspective or in my life. I've seen it much more with things like social media and just general entertainment comment or content. I've seen lots of people who are deeply addicted to scrolling on their phones, or even not to phrase it as addiction, rather, they've built the habit that when they have downtime, they go on their phones and feel that downtime. And that's not necessarily a great habit in your life if you're looking to chase a purpose or a goal or to make deep connections with people. And on the flip side, I've seen people who are specifically avoiding connections because they would rather be doing other things online, like watching videos or spending their time watching shows and just performing overall avoidance. So, whether it be explicit matter or it be just general screen time, this is a growing phenomenon in our world. And I'm sure that most of you have seen it, whether it be yourselves or your friends or peers spending a lot of time on your phones. It's pretty interesting. Um, the
Well, it's become
average
completely
screen time,
normalized, right?
yeah, it's just grown and grown and grown. Many people don't even bat an eye at being on their phone for 8+ hours a day. So it's really wild to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it is really wild. And what are you consuming and why? And most of it's passive content. Declan's very intentionally was talking about, the physics idea there, where you can learn, and our goal here is to help you learn that your brain is behind, that pull back into the screen if you're using your screens intentionally. But so many people, and yes, I see Fun Money has a question that I'm going to get to in a second, but I have analyzed over 50,000 brain maps, but I've talked to tens of thousands of people who are wrapped up
Hmm.
in different types of screen addictions. And, I have a different perspective than most people because I know the pain that it's causing them. They go back to content, no matter what it is, they go back to content that makes them feel good in the moment. But then the next day, they're filled with shame. They're upset they wasted all that time. They feel awful because their brain feels just exhausted and drained and depleted. So this issue is a real one, and it's so normalized, nobody's even considering it. So we're trying to help people do that. And then
Yeah, there's
Fun
a bunch
Money's
of good comments in
question.
the chat right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting down here. Fun Money's question is about high functioning people or people who are meditative, and what's the difference about them that you found. It is interesting because I have looked at the whole gamut of different types of brain patterns. I have a few clients, unfortunately, that are on the brink or are non functional because their brains are so depleted from
Hmm.
screens. But then I have people who are really high performers on the other end who are high performing because they're getting all the dopamine, and they can't perform at those levels without the dopamine or they'll go through withdrawal. But for a brain that's green, like we've seen on our slideshows, an optimized brain is able to get into that meditative state and then able to come back out of it and activate their brain. High functioning people who aren't dependent on dopamine, they have great deal of neuroplasticity and healthy circadian rhythms. They can sleep when they need to and want to sleep. You basically can get to any state that you want to
Hmm.
when you want or need to, the more regulated you are. And I've seen all across the whole spectrum or continuum.
Yeah. There's
Okay.
a bunch of good comments. I wanted to answer Mogul Productions asking if the Supernormal project is going to be good for people who feel addicted to their screens because their job requires constant use. That's an excellent question. And I want to touch on that because one thing that we emphasize in a major way is intent. If you are on your phone because, or on a screen rather, because it's something that forwards your life, like during a job, then that is not necessarily a bad thing. It's more so when you go on a screen or do something on a screen that you personally don't want to be doing, but you feel the subconscious compulsion to do anyways. Like, I don't want to go on social media for 2 hours a day, but I do anyways because it's what I use to fill the time. Something like that. That is not healthy. But if it's something like I need to be on a screen to do my work right now and you do your work, that's absolutely healthy. And I would not think that that is something that you specifically need to avoid.
Yeah, and we have a comment from Moodaleap saying that I'm stuck in a vicious cycle. Can I please explain step by step what I should do? Now, yes, I can, and I'll do it briefly. But first, I have to give you the disclaimer that I don't mean it to sound like it's easy. It's fairly simple, but it's very difficult to do. But these are the
Mhm.
basic steps, and I call it a pleasure pathway reset. If you go to drtrishleigh.com and you click the tab that says masterclass, you will see all of the lessons within the modules in this large masterclass that I've created. And the reason I'm encouraging you to do that is because you can read every single thing that you need to do. And there are 134 of them in there. But the idea is you have to break free from the dopamine dependency and the habit loops or the reinforcement cycle back into the screen to whatever content is giving you the dopamine. You have to break that. Then I encourage people to dopamine stack in the real world. Figure out the things that you like to do. I call it a dopamine determination activity. It's something that I like to do, you might not like to do. And you have to figure out what you like to do, right? If you like to knit, you knit. But if I had to knit, I would probably stab somebody with the knitting needle. So that's the idea. Dopamine stack in the real world and then build the foundation of the life that serves you. Now, again, easily said, but not so easily done. That is why I use top tier technology to help people regulate their brains first. Once your brain is more regulated, going from red to green, now you have control over your brain and you can do those behavioral suggestions or you can implement the strategies. So,
Yeah, and
it
that
breaks the
exact
cycle.
technology is something that we offer that you can find on drtrishleigh.com. There's correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Trish, but there's a few different programs that involve neurofeedback using the system, right? The mindless
Yeah,
system.
yeah. So I essentially have programs at two levels. We're contemplating creating a really affordable program, but we are doing that also through the Supernormal project. So you can look for that once we're done developing it. But at Dr. Trish Leigh, there's a master class. It's a do-it-yourself program where I teach you to use the technology at entry level. But you can use that technology, and it's once you're in the program and you know how to do it, you can use it long term with no cost. Then you can work directly with me and my team. That we call the one-on-one clinic. We call it Regulate First. So there are two different levels of programming, and then we have more coming in the Supernormal project, which is why Declan and I are so stoked about the nonprofit, because this is our way, to be able to show up for everybody. Nobody will be denied because of financial access.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, we have been okay.
Let's
Yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Can you find a connection with
I was trying to
everyone?
find the comment.
Is a question. Is that, and I see, people talking about it's difficult to go out into the world by yourself. It is difficult. Declan's done it. I do it. Most of us have had to do it at some time. And if you are going to create a new version of yourself that has new skills and new capabilities, it involves growth. And that's why I always joke, here we grow again. So you may have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Last year, I had to travel I didn't have to, I got to. Language is important. I got to travel for media appearances and things like that. But I used it as an opportunity. And you know how I like to overextend the word opportunity, but I used it as the opportunity to learn how to travel and to be out in the world by myself. And I became really good at it. I'd go to restaurants and I'd be able just to sit there and relax, not be on my phone, just be out. And yeah, it's uncomfortable at first, but then once you do it, it's just like building a muscle. You now know how to go into the world and, go have dinner and meet somebody.
Yeah. And
I
if
thought it was interesting too, because I wasn't then hyper chatty, where old me would have been hyper chatty, just talking with anybody, but it's just relaxed.
Yeah, if something that you're specifically interested in is meeting new people and socialization out in the world, the only way for that to happen is if you put yourself out in the world. So you have to create the circumstances for positive interactions to happen if you want them to happen. They won't come to your house to happen. You know what I mean? Or at least most of the time. And that is a skill that is not very easy for a lot of people. Going out into the world takes a lot of determination. But if you're able to do that and push your limits for what you're looking for in life, it can end up being really helpful. And I see that Dr. Scott has a question asking how the Muse headband helps. Do you want me to take that, Dr. Trish, or do you want to take that one?
Sure, you can take it and I can add if you want.
Yeah, sure. So the Muse headband is used for this thing called neurofeedback. It is a way to train your brain. So there's a couple different states that your brain could be in away from the baseline. And we effectively refer to them as strain brain, where your brain is moving really fast, and drain brain, where your brain is moving really slow. So, what neurofeedback using the Muse headband does is it allows you to train your brain to hold that middle ground, a healthy, stable brain for a longer period of time, which is focus. And that is when you'll feel the best. So, if Dr. Trish Leigh wants to elaborate on that a
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah, I
I'd
love it.
love to let
That's
her.
perfect. It's just like I think of the Muse headband has one universal protocol. So it's not personalized, it's not individualized. That's what I do with my own app. But it's a great start if you want to train your brain. I use it all the time. I really do. I use both my own app and I do use the Muse headband with its own app. So if you purchase the Muse headband, which I don't sell, but you can find it on my website at the bottom of drtrishleigh.com, there's a button that says Brain Training Headband. It takes you to a web page that explains how I use it, because it's not the same as the way that other people use it. It's billed as a meditation device, but it actually is neurofeedback. So you can use it, and essentially it's like bicep curls for your brain, right? So, like, if you want to improve your focus, you don't need to go talk to a therapist for 100 hours of how to improve focus if your brain is dysregulated. You have to start repping the brain bicep curls to get a stronger brain, then you can talk with a person to get strategies on focus. And basically, that's how it works.
Yeah, to keep relating it to the idea of working out, using the Muse headband by default is like going to the gym and doing the same workout every time. You do some basic bicep curls and then you leave. But using the neurofeedback technology with Dr. Trish's app is like having a personal trainer. They tell you exactly what workouts you need for your body to train and get stronger. And it's the same for your brain. That headband trains your brain to focus more and to recenter itself back to a healthy state of the brain. And the Dr. Trish Leigh app can help you do that specifically for the way
Yeah.
that your brain is right now.
Yeah, Joshua T2945 has a great question. I have a or
Mhm.
comment actually, but I have a very strong freeze response when triggered in public. What can I tell myself to snap out of it? That is what happens to many people. So there is fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and I talk about it in my book, Mind Over Explicit Matter, and I have an image there to kind of lock in what each of those responses are. But essentially, they are stress responses. So, from my perspective, those stress responses happen more readily the higher the threshold of dysregulation is. So, like, basically, it's like a cup filled with water, right? The more stress you have in your cup, then you go out in the world and that stress response kicks in. When you regulate, you have much higher stress tolerance. And I really love the concept of stress tolerance. I find it to be very interesting. Is that, 10 of us here could have the same experience. Two of us could find it to be the most stressful thing that ever happened to them. Five would find it remotely stressful, and the other two didn't think it was stressful at all. I don't know if that was 10, but hopefully it was. But so the idea is that stress response that has to do with regulation in the brain. And, so that freeze response in the moment, the strategy is to bring yourself back to the present and to give yourself a strategy to interact with the person that you are in front of. So the idea is you could make eye contact, like we've kind of talked about here for connection, if that's something that would be easier. The idea is to bring you out of your head back into an embodied experience to be able to connect, and that'll be different depending upon what you have going on. But that is a really good point, that freeze response is real, and really bringing that internal stress level from the dysregulation down is the long-term strat to
Mhm.
be able to get over it.
Yeah, Dr. Trish, Dr. Scott in the chat had a really great question about the Muse headband on your app. If you want to answer that quickly, and maybe relate it to your programs and website.
Okay, let's see what we got. I don't see it. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Recommend Muse or a
it's
different
recent.
one. Is it something you use ongoing? Where do you purchase my app? So the Muse is the headband or the wearable. And actually, Dr. Scott, I saw you had a question yesterday or whatever day it was about implants, like if we'll ever get to the point of having this type of technology implanted. My hope is that we don't need it to be implanted, right? That enough people can use the wearable to regulate. I highly recommend the Muse because the app is really great. They've updated it so that now it gives you two graphs of your progress within the sessions. I teach
Mhm.
people how to track their progress over time. I have a playlist on the Supernormal channel. We have another YouTube channel, which is currently called Supernormal, which we're making into the Supernormal Project YouTube channel. But there's a playlist over there called Brain Training 101 where I teach you how to use the Muse yourself. It's just you can access that playlist, and I help people to be able to do that. You know how I said that I'm contemplating making another entry level, super affordable program in Dr. Trish Leigh and Company. That program, that the idea, if I make it real, is to use the Muse headband, teach people, and just get them rolling with that, so that people can start training their brains. I really recommend that. My app, you can download my app, Dr. Trish Leigh, from the App Store, but to be able to access it, you have to be one of my clients. So you can go in there and like check it out a little bit, but
Yeah, how does someone become one of your clients?
Yeah, so the way that it works is you can go to my website and schedule a consultation with me. It's a paid consultation, but that's important because we spend time together. It's not a generic, like, sales pitch consultation. We spend time, attention, presence together where I'm listening to your situation and helping you to figure out the best step to move forward for your brain based on what you're telling me. But for most people, they choose to have a brain map, which we've been showing here. You can see how your brain is performing and specifically every single area and the magnitude of dysregulation, why you're stuck. Then, if you want to move forward after the brain map, I set the protocols specifically for you, and they're different for all of my clients. In the slideshows that I've been making here, I've been showing my real client brain maps and trend screens of progress, which I think is
Hmm.
really cool to see. This is how a person's brain started, this is their progress over time. So that's basically how it works. And I help people with arousal dysfunction, anxiety, ADHD, break free from the screen. Basically, the question, I think it was Moodaleap, or I think it was Moodaleap, like, the steps to break free. We engage in those after your brain is more regulated.
And we are almost wrapped up with the stream today. So if anybody has any final questions or comments that they want us to answer, we would love to address those.
Uh,
Mm,
I VRBU 294, it says that we have the answers, but it's difficult to implement those strategies into your life. And then sometimes you just fall back on your old habits and motivation is short lived. And that is very true. And, that's why I was trying to say here that I don't mean to lightly tell you go do this, because I totally understand how difficult it is, and that's why it really is important for me to let you know there is technology that helps. And yes, it comes with an investment, but what better to invest in than yourself and your future? I truly firmly believe that. So
And we just
you know
received a donation from Mogul Productions thanking us. Yeah, that's amazing. And that donation is going to go directly to the Supernormal project to help people who have an interest in reducing their screen time and making progress on that. So we really appreciate that. Do you want to go ahead and read what that donation was about?
Yeah, a big stressful screen factor for me is YouTube. My watch later list never goes to zero. I keep adding educational videos, don't have time to catch up, worry one might be life changing. I mean, that is another aspect of supernormal stimuli. We live in a day and age that there is just constant, massive amounts of content. And
Hmm.
a saying that I've been saying lately is you must curate your feed. It must be digestible, right? Because you don't want to be behind in your life and worry that you're going to miss something life changing. The reality is, you might miss something that you could benefit from. You have to be intentional with what you consume and why for right now. And just recognize we live right now in an era where you could never consume everything that would be good for you. So, picking what's most important in the moment, consuming some things that are fun and light and just help you feel good. Of course, they should be good for you. Mostly consuming motivational and then letting the rest go. And I will tell you too that the more dysregulated you are, the more you have FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. And I know this because I used to have fear of missing out. And then I'm sure you've heard JOMO, right? The joy of missing out. Sometimes there's joy in recognizing there's so much out there, but I'm going to, tap into this and I'm going to let the rest go by and
Yeah,
feel good about
specifically
it.
picking what you want in your life is really important. All right, we are about to wrap up. Do we want to read one more comment before we end the stream today?
Yeah, let me see
Uh,
if
Let me see if there's a good one.
We have a comment from One Tin Soldier. I promise I
That
won't
was the
sing
exact one I was gonna
like
pick.
I did last Wednesday when Declan wasn't here. um, but good news, been free from the screen for a few weeks and noticed I'm more social. I am telling you, when people learn to balance their screen time, step out of hyper stimulating content, the brain starts to come down from strain brain. It starts to come up and more activated from drain brain, and you will notice a difference. And tonight we've been talking about socialization and social anxiety. They improve. That's why our number one sayings that I don't know if Declan's taken to them yet or if anybody else has, but for me, it's curate your feed. Make sure your feed serves you and go earn the dopamine. It's imperative. These two things alone are going to help you socially. So thanks for that comment, One Tin Soldier, because I am so psyched that you are naturally reducing the amount of content and feeling so much better because of it. That's totally awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us on our stream today. And we will see you hopefully tomorrow for Motivation Monday, which will be here again at 5 p.m. EST.
All right, awesome. We'll see you tomorrow night. We'll get motivated. We won't count on our motivation. And then we'll move into Tuesday Triumph, where we're going to pull all of this together so you can move into the next days and weeks and rock out your best life. So until tomorrow, control your brain or it will control you. We'll see you then.
Bye.